Today on a special edition of Art Scene, from warm cookies of the revolution, a virtual gift basket, social intimacy while physically distant. From Rainbow Militia, the virtual music and aerial performances of Rainbow Ruckus. To help folks express themselves through this pandemic, from Susie Q. Smith, a mini poetry workshop, and a special pandemic poem from me. Hi, I'm Bobby Lefebvre. In this time of social distancing, this time of the coronavirus pandemic, artists of all kinds are continuing to create, to bring their light to the world and shine that light wherever it's needed most. First up, I took part in a virtual gift basket from Warm Cookies of the Revolution. We'll talk to one of the event's organizers in a bit, but for right now, here's my contribution.
The poets are beginning to speak, the musicians wailing, the writers bombing, the dancers moving, the painters bleeding, the philosophers dreaming, we, the artists, harbingers of the future, humble prophets, communal visionaries, stewards and servants of the immediate. Watch as we turn ourselves inside out. This is how we lick our collective wounds, how we stitch them, how we talk about and beautify the scar. The sirens are sounding, the screams are loud, the virus has packed its bags, world traveler without a passport, borders are man-made, walls cannot contain life on the move, but that's another story. Asian businesses were empty before streets, racism, the toilet paper is gone, panic begets panic, my 3 p.m. meeting is now a Zoom conference, Tom Hanks is raising his hand, let's talk about the poor, 30 million uninsured, ends meet, public transportation to get there, self-quarantine, privilege, paradox, blue collars can't work remotely, hourly wages side-eye the salaried, go ahead and cancel school, childcare is a killer too, industrialized without a heart, developed without a conscience, capitalism gaslights, blames our bodies instead of broken systems, wash your hands, cough into your sleeve, plutocracy lampooning universal health care, call on your God or whatever, just don't touch your face when you make the sign of the cross. And when there is nothing left to do but live, let us retire the noise and build a home inside the stillness. Grab a wrench and unfasten the parts of you that have become mechanical. Rest your weary limbs in a bed of anomaly. Outside, the machine is powering down. You can hear the birds when the gears aren't grinding. When there is nothing left to do but live, make a vacation of your body. Each part explored, a stamp in your passport. Begin with your heart maybe. Crawl inside and sightsee. Ask difficult questions about who it is and why. Outside, the machine is powering down. You can hear yourself when the gears aren't grinding. When there is nothing left to do but live, simply show up. That has always been enough. And together, in this sudden strangeness, radical imagination will run wild. Tomorrow being built today.
So that was tons of fun. I actually recorded this piece in my driveway in my front yard, which is actually very busy. And so I had people walking by. Some people thought I was a crazy person. Others were really interested and kind of sat and actually created an audience. So it was a lot of fun, and I'm proud of my contribution to the gift basket. And now joining me virtually is Evan Weissman from Warm Cookies of the Revolution. Evan, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thanks for having me, Bobby.
So you and a couple others were responsible for putting this gift basket together. Why did you do it? And what did you wish to accomplish by assembling it?
Molina Speaks and I were planning a live in-person Warm Cookies program that had to shift like everything. And we just started thinking about kind of two main things. One was how could we get artists paid for what they do? Because so many people were scrambling, just lost all their work. And some people were like, I got to find some kind of job. So that was number one. And number two was to try to give something to people that could encapsulate what everyone may be going through in a day or maybe over the course of a week, which is like confusion, sadness, anger, maybe joy, maybe boredom, and to harness that, to get different artists to talk about and to show with what they do here. While we're all in this is what we're thinking or feeling. So it was just an offering, a way to kind of be in this together and to explore what does it mean to be intimate with each other, even though we're physically apart.
Yeah, it was a great experience being part of it. And I really think that you really captured all of those things with, the folks you invited. And Evan, when you first announced this gift basket, you put out an email expressing why ultimately at the end of all this, we were going to be okay. What did you say in that email, and why do you think we will be all right?
I was chewing on three things at the time. One was that the United States has done some incredible things, even under strange circumstances. In the 40s, we built 3 entire cities secretly. The government did because of the Cold War, but with churches and schools and roads and everything in a very short amount of time. In the 60s, the Johnson administration signed up tens and tens of thousands of people into Medicare in 6 months on note cards, no internet. And the third thing was we got Frankenstein and the vampire trope in the year without summer in Europe, when there was some climate craziness going on, and some friends got together because there was no summer. They were hanging out and they told stories, and that's where we got Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So the point there was that even in the midst of what seems like too much craziness, too much insanity happening, we can do incredible things if we are creative and if we have the will and the desire to do it.
What do you think that we are learning about our nation, ourselves, during this pandemic?
I think we're seeing a little bit of the worst in ourselves and a lot of the best in ourselves. And I think that that little bit tends to have a lot of power. And so that can make it pretty rough for a lot of people. But the responses have been just incredible and overwhelming, what human ingenuity and solidarity looks like. That's what I think we're seeing.
Well, right now, we're going to hop in and take a little bit of a look at some of the gift basket. Here it is. Check the beat out.
How to make love. If you want someone to know that you love them, go to the local butcher. Buy the best chicken they have, organs and all. Go to the market with the best produce and buy a few onions, yellow enough to make you hungry, a few shallots, maybe 2 hands full, a heavy box of kosher salt, a pound of carrots so orange they sing, a stalk of celery crisp as winter, a quart of heavy cream thick as a cow's shoulder, a bottle of brandy or cognac depending on what you like, a bundle of bay leaves, fresh if you can find them, a pound of butter. You should already have several cloves of garlic on hand at home. We are talking about love after all, but it might be wise to add a few more to your basket if you feel like it's time. Now, we all have our own methods, but I feel like it's best to sing on your way home and while you're preparing the ingredients.
Memories of holidays, gift baskets, making love recipes, surviving, beans and rice, maintaining, making magic in the kitchen of the garden of life. Extra time with the little dragonflies, quarantining, baking, reading, dreaming, the recipes. 100 push-ups to solidify your strength. Dopamine walks around the hood 3 times a day. Writing practices to keep up the mental pace. Art and letter making for a forgotten face. Homemade tacos y margaritas, a cultural taste. The recipes. Echinacea, wild cherry bark, licorice, marshmallow root. Tea for respiration. A non-alcoholic toast to yourself. A meditation. Sage y copal to cleanse your home. A daily dose of self-touch to soothe your soul. In tragedy and in health, humanity is on schedule to keep on going. So what are we prepared to build when it is time to reemerge? End transmission.
All right, we're back. You know, I have watched this thing countless times, and every time that I watch it, I get something new from it. Thank you so much, Evan, for putting it together. How can people see the entire gift basket?
Yeah, easiest way is warmcookiesoftherevolution.org. It's right there, and you can also check it out on Vimeo, but it's the same link. And I also should say, please watch it. Please share it with anyone that you think might like it or need it. And then take note of the different artists involved and support their work. Buy their work if you can, or just check it out, share it, whatever it might be.
Well, thank you so much again, Evan, for all the work that you do in the community, bringing people to important civic issues, involving artists in, conversations of policy and culture change. We appreciate that work very much. As an artist who, really enjoys participating in those conversations, I love that you and Warm Cookies provide that platform.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bobby.
So a little later, we will talk to another featured artist, my friend Susie Q. Smith, about what she's been up to during this pandemic and get some tips and prompts for writing your own poetry. My next guest is Amber Blaze from Rainbow Militia. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Good to see you again. We came to your rehearsal space a few years ago, and I got a lesson on the silks. It was a lot of fun. There was some great photos, some stills of me upside down doing awesome, fun things. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. I thought you were great then.
We had fun. So Amber, tell us how you got the idea of doing Rainbow Ruckus.
Yeah, so we are kind of all stuck at home, and none of us as performers are able to go out and do gigs. We're not able to get out and be in front of people, which is the things that we really love to do. And so I was kind of trapped in my house and realized that I have a lot of musician friends that are also stuck at home. And I just did a simple personal post out there saying, hey, is there anyone that wants to collaborate and create a piece together, and just send me your music and I'll create an aerial piece to it. And I got over 15 responses from different musician friends within like an hour period. And so there was so much interest that I then started getting interest from other circus performers who were saying, hey, I actually want to do this too. What we would do was give performers a song from a Colorado musician, and they didn't get to pick it. We would just give it to them. And then they had 2 weeks to choreograph a piece to it. And so the Rainbow Ruckus is the result of that.
That's amazing. And so, sort of unlike the last group, this group sort of formed itself in this sort of necessary grassroots way, right? And you're actually trying to raise money for artists who lost their livelihood during the crisis.
We were able to pull in some partners like Rhino Arts District and We Are Denver to help us raise awareness and raise a little bit more money. So we're actually able to pay our artists a little bit. And we've been asking people for donations as well. And we're getting such generous response. So I'm so excited. These are artists who are kind of out of work right now, and every little bit helps. And we're going to be able to pay all of them, which is really awesome.
That's really, really amazing. I think one thing that this has taught us is that when you're an artist, you're going to do this regardless of what the circumstances are. But it's wonderful that you all are able to provide funds to keep folks afloat while this happens. As a creative person, as an artist, what do you think right now that you are learning and that artists are learning about this experience of quarantine and what it means and what it's done to all of us. And why do people go to art in times like this to make sense of it?
The overall answer is that art just brightens our lives. It makes us happy, you know, and whether we're creating it as artists or consuming it as people who love art, it's just something that is really light and wonderful in a time that is kind of scary and hard. And I think overall, I've kind of learned that the great things about being artists is that we're always able to pivot. We're just kind of light on our feet and we just have to figure out what the next way is. And if we're able to just change with the times and pivot and find new ways to share our art, I think that's what's really important.
All right, Amber, well, thank you so much for what you're doing. Let's take a look at what you've got cooking.
A yellow feather by my bed to keep the devil from my head. There's a story being pulled right out of these walls. Tell you that I look for you in the dark halls, and now my eyes are the same size as when I was born.
Quarantine. We need a quarantine. This ancient war machine is broken. War machine is broken. We need a quarantine. War machine is broken. War machine is looking in my Father's face. I've been praising the Lord since the day I was born. Now I'm asking for its grace.
Warm bed sheets, old coffee, warm mystic gone too long. You ain't too much, but I don't have a lot. I'm nothing, but I might be all you got. Some people leaving their cities, some people leaving their friends. Can't leave if we don't know it.
Amber, that was really, really cool. How can people see more, and how can folks contribute if they are able?
Rainbow Militia has a YouTube channel. You can follow us on there by just searching for Rainbow Militia. And you can also donate to our Denver Artist Relief Fund, which goes to all artists in Colorado.
Amber, so good to see you again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We always love highlighting great art in Denver. And we also want to encourage everyone to express themselves during this crazy and uncertain time. And one way that we do that is through poetry. Joining me now is my friend, Susie Q. Smith. Susie, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Bobby.
Absolutely. And you know, Westword just named you Best Poet, bringing poetry to the people as part of their annual Best of series. And you've been gifting poems to the community throughout our time in quarantine, throughout a series called Poems for the End of the World. What does it mean to you to bring poetry to the people, and what is your hope for that gift?
I think that in many times, poetry is what I have, and I want my work to serve the people in some capacity, right? So whatever I'm doing, I think that there isn't really a huge line between the work that I do in the world. I generally identify as an artist, activist, educator, and I do all of those things all of the time. So they're just different avenues. And so I think that it's important to me that my poems do something, whether it's a balm for the spirit, whether it's an educational tool. I want them to be living in the world and doing something good for people.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's been warnings that the next healthcare crisis in the country is actually going to be a mental health crisis, as people are, you know, in isolation and living through fear, experiencing loss of income and businesses. Why do you think that people gravitate toward art and poetry during times of strife and uncertainty?
I think that people gravitate towards poetry and art during difficult times because we need it, because it serves as a salve, as a balm. I think about Sonia Sanchez, who is one of my favorite writers, and she says that for any movement to be sustainable, it must be rooted in love. And I think that if we're not connected to our hearts, nothing that we do is going to matter, right? And right now we're so deeply connected to what is really important in all of our lives. And I think that poetry speaks to that.
Yeah. And Susie, I've known you for a long, long time. You do many things, and you do many things very, very well. And one of those things that you do is teach. And we were hoping that you could lead us through a micro poetry workshop here to give our viewers an idea of how to approach poetry and maybe even create something of their own.
I would be happy to. So poetry is a tool that I use to sort of identify and articulate my thoughts and feelings. And it's something that I also teach my students to do in the same way. The goal isn't always for everyone to become a professional full-time poet. The goal is that we have some tool to communicate our deepest feelings and thoughts and desires. And so as we're going through this, all of us around the world together, that's part of what I'm thinking about, right? So my first question would be for us to really think about how this pandemic has affected us. It is affecting so many people in really different ways, right? Some people are relatively comfortable but inconvenienced, and some people are really in deep crisis. So in some capacity, it's affecting you. And also thinking about the skills that we developed, right? There are so many things that we have all learned during this time. Some of us are learning how much we love being alone. Some of us are learning how much we don't. All of us are learning things about people we share space with, whether it's people you share housing with, whether it's your neighbors, your community members. We're all experiencing each other in new ways and to more intense degrees, right? So thinking about all of the things we've learned about ourselves, our own behavior, the people around us, our ideas, our belief systems, our values, all of those things are really, really coming forward for all of us right now. And we're finding new skills, right? Skills that maybe we didn't realize we had, things that we left behind. My niece and I were FaceTiming the other day, and she has taken up knitting. There are so many different things that we are all sort of developing right now. And so in that, and thinking about all of the things you've learned and discovered over these last few weeks, I would like to ask, which of those things would you most like to take forward with you as we're creating a new future together? Which of those things are valuable, and what things would you like to not see return? What would you like to leave? And in that, I will bring you to the writing prompt. And so my mission, my challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to think about all of these things, make a list of all of these things, and then write yourself a letter, but write a letter to yourself 2 months ago. All of the things you've learned since then, all of the things that 2 months ago self might have liked to know. What would you tell that person? And then from there, you can write also a letter to yourself 2 months from now. What questions do you have? Because I think that right now we're all still in a space of questioning. So those are my writing prompts for you. If you would like to share them, please tag me in them on the internet.
Very cool. So some contemplative, writing prompts. We want folks to take, list of what they have been feeling, what they're going through, what they will hold on to, what they want to let go of. And writing letters to yourself is always fun. Sometimes in quarantine, we get back to the old stuff, right? I know a couple of people that were re-upping on pen pals, handwritten letters, sending them old school through the mail. And so we're finding, interesting ways to connect again. Susie, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for offering us the gift of your poetry through the series that you've been doing. I know that you've received, a lot of love from the press around that. And it speaks again to the power of poetry in these times to help us sort of distill and translate these messages. So thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to tagging you on Instagram with our poems and our thoughts and our lists. And we appreciate you being here.
Thank you again so much for having me. Always a pleasure talking with you, Bobby.
Thanks again, Susie. And of course, you can express yourself in many other ways. You can dance, sing, draw, write in a journal, make jewelry, anything that makes you feel good. Thanks to everybody for watching this special edition of Artsy. There's lots more online art that's coming out of this pandemic, including things from We Are Denver, Project Voice, and many, many more. Also, check out the awesome virtual museum tours at Visit Denver. And of course, check out Warm Cookies of the Revolution and Rainbow Ruckus. We hope to see you back in the world as soon as it's safe. Until next time, stay safe, wear your mask, be well.